The region of Kashmir has long been a point of contention. India and Pakistan have disputed this territory for decades. This dispute has led to several wars and numerous smaller conflicts. The line of control dividing the region remained a tense frontier. Trust between the two nuclear-armed neighbors was always fragile. Diplomatic efforts often stalled. Underlying tensions simmered constantly, threatening to boil over with little warning. In the early months of 2028, the political atmosphere grew increasingly charged. Nationalist sentiments were strong in both India and Pakistan. Public rhetoric became more heated. Several rounds of diplomatic talks had failed to yield any significant breakthroughs. International observers watched with growing concern. They feared that any small incident could ignite a larger conflagration. Intelligence agencies reported increased military readiness along the border. The usual seasonal military exercises seemed more intense, more purposeful than in previous years. A specific border incident acted as the immediate catalyst for escalation. Reports emerged of a cross-border skirmish involving ground troops. Details were initially murky, with both sides offering conflicting accounts. This event was followed by intelligence reports suggesting significant troop movements. These reports were amplified by satellite imagery and electronic intercepts. The media in both countries fanned the flames of patriotic fervor. The situation rapidly deteriorated, moving beyond the control of cautious diplomatic voices. For many years, the Pakistan Air Force, PAF, relied heavily on foreign military technology. Aircraft and systems were often sourced from the United States, France, and China. While this provided capable hardware, it also created dependencies. There was a growing realization within PAF leadership. True strategic autonomy required a stronger indigenous technological base. This understanding began to shape defense planning in the early 2020s. A long-term vision for self-sufficiency started to take root. Significant investments were channeled into research and development. The PAF identified key areas for focused innovation. These included cyber warfare capabilities, advanced unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, and indigenous radar systems. National research institutions and private sector tech companies were encouraged to collaborate. The goal was to reduce reliance on off-the-shelf foreign purchases. It was also to develop systems tailored to Pakistan's specific defense needs. A cornerstone of this technological drive was Project ASM. This ambitious initiative aimed to develop a fifth-generation fighter aircraft. By 2027, the PAF began to quietly integrate new, unexpected capabilities into its forces. This quiet revolution in technological capacity was about to surprise many international observers. International partnerships remained crucial for Pakistan's aerospace development, however, the nature of these alliances began to shift. The PAF looked beyond its traditional suppliers. It sought partners willing to engage in deeper collaboration, including technology transfer and joint development. This was a strategic move to build sustainable indigenous capabilities. The relationship with China deepened significantly. This partnership was already strong, evidenced by the success of the JF-17 program. It expanded into new areas of aerospace and defense technology. Joint development projects for advanced sensors, missiles, and even concepts for future combat aircraft were initiated. Collaboration with Turkey also became increasingly important. Turkey had made significant strides in its own defense industry, particularly in drone technology and avionics. Pakistan and Turkey found common ground for sharing expertise. Beyond these major alliances, Pakistan also pursued less publicized collaborations. This strategy of diversifying its sources of technology and expertise was deliberate. The morning of the confrontation in late 2028 dawned with palpable tension. Air defense networks across both India and Pakistan were on high alert. Radars swept the skies continuously. In the pre-dawn hours, initial alerts signaled unusual aerial activity near the line of control. Fighter jets were scrambled from air bases on both sides. Pilots rushed to their aircraft, their training kicking in. The situation was escalating from a tense standoff to active engagement. The world held its breath, hoping for a de-escalation that seemed increasingly unlikely. The Pakistan Air Force adopted an initial operational posture that was carefully planned. It was primarily a defensive screen to protect Pakistani airspace. However, it incorporated new, more assertive tactics. Advanced Airborne Early Warning and Control, AEW&C aircraft played a crucial role. They provided a clear picture of the airspace, directing PAF fighters to intercept incoming threats. The Indian Air Force, IAF, had its own objectives for the unfolding situation. These likely included attempts to establish localized air superiority. The first engagements began primarily with beyond visual range (BVR) missile exchanges. Both sides launched long-range air-to-air missiles. The scale of the aerial battle quickly grew, involving dozens of aircraft from both nations. The performance of the Pakistan Air Force during the 2028 confrontation surprised many international observers. PAF pilots demonstrated effective use of their newly integrated technologies. Advanced sensors on their aircraft provided superior situational awareness. Secure data links allowed for seamless coordination between fighters and AEW and sea platforms. This network-centric approach gave them an edge in the complex aerial environment. The PAF was not just fighting with skill, it was fighting smarter. Several IAF aircraft were reportedly shot down or forced to disengage. PAF fighters managed to disrupt IAF formations and counter their offensive maneuvers. The effectiveness of Pakistani electronic warfare systems also played a significant role. The upgraded JF-17 Thunder, particularly the newer Block 3 variants, proved to be a highly capable platform. Its advanced radar provided excellent detection and tracking capabilities. Combined with new long-range missiles and the skill of well-trained PAF pilots, the JF-17 demonstrated that it could hold its own. The aerial engagements had a significant psychological impact on the IAF pilots involved. The immediate international reaction to the 2028 Kashmir aerial confrontation was one of alarm. Major world powers issued urgent calls for de-escalation. There was widespread surprise at the intensity of the conflict and particularly at the PAF's performance. Diplomats worked behind the scenes to prevent further escalation. The United Nations Security Council convened emergency meetings. Military analysts and intelligence agencies around the globe scrambled to understand the PAF's demonstrated capabilities. Previous assessments of Pakistan's air power seem to have underestimated its technological advancements. The success of the JF-17 and its integrated systems, along with effective electronic warfare, prompted a serious re-evaluation. The events over Kashmir had a significant impact on established air power doctrines. The 2028 confrontation challenged the notion of a wide technological gap between top-tier air forces and those of developing nations. It showed that a determined nation could significantly narrow this gap. The PAF's success offered a potential model for building a credible deterrent without bankrupting the national treasury. One of the most discussed aspects of the PAF's performance was its cost-effectiveness. Pakistan had managed to achieve a significant leap in aerial capability. This was done without the massive expenditure typically associated with acquiring top-tier Western fighter jets. The JF-17 program in particular represented a model of affordable excellence. Following the 2028 confrontation, there was a noticeable increase in global interest in Pakistani aerospace products. Several developing nations made inquiries about the JF-17 Thunder. Pakistan Aeronautical Complex, the primary manufacturer of the JF-17, found itself receiving unprecedented attention from potential international customers. The success of Pakistan's model prompted other nations to re-evaluate their defense procurement strategies. Many countries began to question the wisdom of investing solely in extremely expensive, high-end platforms. Defense planners globally were forced to consider new paradigms for building effective air power. The 2028 incident served as a clear signal that the global defense market was becoming more diverse and competitive. In the aftermath of the 2028 confrontation, the Pakistan Air Force experienced accelerated development. The government, recognizing the strategic importance of air power, increased funding for modernization and research. National prestige associated with the PAF soared. The lessons learned from the Kashmir engagement were carefully analyzed and incorporated into training and future development plans. The PAF intensified its focus on next-generation technologies. Project ASM, aimed at developing a future stealth fighter, received renewed impetus. Research into hypersonic weapons and advanced space-based assets was also prioritized. Pakistan envisioned an air force capable of operating effectively in increasingly complex and contested environments. The PAF's role in joint international exercises expanded. Having demonstrated its capabilities, the PAF became a sought-after partner for air forces from friendly nations. Efforts to expand indigenous production capabilities were redoubled. The events of 2028 and the subsequent years marked Pakistan's emergence as a significant player in the global aerospace arena. It was no longer viewed merely as a regional military power. It was increasingly recognized as a nation capable of significant technological innovation in the defense sector. Pakistan began to host major international aerospace conferences and defense exhibitions. These events provided a platform to showcase its achievements and capabilities to a global audience. Pakistan's leadership in this domain was not just about selling its own products, it was about promoting a new model of collaborative development. The journey from a reliant importer of technology to an innovator and exporter represents a new paradigm.